What should be Duke's course of action from here? What type of player is Cooper Flagg exactly? Which transfer leaving is going to hurt Duke the most? All of those questions and more are answered today on a Mailbag Monday.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. It's so great to have you here with us on this Monday, May 6th, 2024. Locked On Blue Devils, of course, is your one-stop shop to discuss everything going on in the life of Duke athletics. We've got a Mailbag Monday here today. You sent questions to us on X at LO_Blue Devils or via email, lockedonbluedevils@gmail.com, and we will answer those today with my good friend Jordan Mann, who hosts the Big J and Little J show. Of course, you can follow him on X as well at JMan's Takes. We've got a lot to talk about. Be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Also, make sure you watch our show daily on YouTube each and every day and hit that subscribe button to our YouTube channel. So without further ado, excited to bring him on in. Jordan Mann is here with us once again. J-Man, what's going on? How are you, sir?
I'm good, brother. Appreciate you having me as always and ready for some mailbag questions.
Absolutely, man. It's always fun to hear from the listeners. You're no stranger to this type stuff as well. We want to know feedback. We want to know what people that consume the show each and every day are actually thinking this time of year. And so I've been able to gather a couple of questions over the last few days. And so we'll kind of dive right in. So next question, or first question, I should say, that we'll answer here today was sent in via Twitter. Someone writes in, I've seen him listed as a small forward despite being 6'9". What do you think will be Cooper Flagg's best position when you look at next year's team?
I mean, I think it's tough to say, and I think it's tough to say because he's so talented, but I think he starts at the 3 with what Duke has coming in freshman-wise and via portal. But I think he's going to be really good at the 3 or the 4. And hell, JJ, even if Duke goes massively big, he plays the 2. I think he'd be fine at the 2. It's just he's a very talented guard or very talented big with guard play. And so I would say the 3.
I think so too. I think you've got a little bit more versatility that you're able to do with the rest of the roster as well in those bigger spots if you are able to keep Cooper Flagg there. But look, in the college game, I think you play all those positions, truthfully. And I think there will be moments where you would say Duke can go smaller, possibly out there with Cooper being your 5. Although as it stands right now, of the scholarship players, 6'5" is the shortest that Duke has. So a little bit of a different build to this year's team, but we might see Flagg get some run as the biggest player out there with some other lineups that you could put together.
Yeah, I think Duke is going after the Leonard Hamilton route of just having massive bodies 1 through 5. And so we'll see how it plays out, but I'm excited to see Cooper Flagg at the 3 or 4 position.
No doubt. Good first question right there. All right, how about this one? Which player transferring affects Duke the most? Unfortunately, Jordan, we have a ton of options here. We hate to see people leave the Brotherhood, but after the end of this past basketball season, we have now seen so many people leave the transfer portal, from Mark Mitchell to Jeremy Roach to Sean Stewart to TJ Power, Jalen Blakes, Jaden Shute, Christian Reeves. 7 players to choose from on this one.
Yeah, I would have to go Jaden Shute. No, I'm just kidding. I would say Sean Stewart. Honestly, and all jokes aside, like I don't count Roach in this category just because I never viewed him coming back to Duke to begin with.
Right.
So I'd say Sean Stewart because the one thing I have questions for this upcoming season is Malawak. Like, how ready is he? And we are kind of thin at the true 5 position, and Duke saw Sean Stewart play the 5 at times this past season. So minutes were there for him, and to see him leave, it leaves a little gap in the minutes there at the true 5 position to where I'd say Sean Stewart is who I'd go with.
He got better throughout the course of the season. There's so much potential there, such an athlete. Don't forget, Sean Stewart broke Zion Williamson's vertical leap record at Duke when they do their off-season workouts and that sort of thing. So a hell of an athlete that has committed to Ohio State. We'll have some more questions a little bit later about those transfer portal fits. I think Sean Stewart is the answer. I think it's fair to not include Jeremy Roach because a lot of people kind of talked about, hey, maybe he's, gone after this year no matter what. Maybe he's going to the pro game. Don't really see him playing elsewhere, but ultimately he's going to go play at Baylor. If it wasn't Sean Stewart, could you make a case for somebody like Mark Mitchell being someone that would affect Duke the most? Mark
Mitchell is tough. In a weird way, I kind of would say TJ Power just because I'm probably an unpopular opinion there, but Mark Mitchell is so limited and you kind of just knew what you're getting him on a day-to-day basis every night. And TJ Power, I would have probably bought stock in him going from freshman to sophomore with the way he can shoot at 6'9". Like, I would have been more intrigued with a TJ Power year 2 than a Mark Mitchell year 3.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that's fair to say. I really wish TJ Power would have stuck around to see some of those outside shots that he could have knocked down and see where else he would have been able to develop as a player. But I think Duke's going to ultimately end up just fine. All right, we've got more questions that we want to answer. Again, it's a Mailbag Monday episode of Locked On Blue Devils, and we take more of your questions right after this here on today's show. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. It helps you hire professionals that you can't find anywhere else. Even those who aren't actively searching for a new job might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or resources to hire. Constantly finding ways to make the process easier for you, LinkedIn even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process easier and quicker. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Keep it moving here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson alongside my pal Jordan Mann from the Big J and Little J show. All right, man, let's keep this thing moving. Next question. Will any transfer Duke has signed be a major factor for us next year? Again, these questions were sent via Twitter at LO_Blue Devils or email lockedonbluedevils@gmail.com. So will any transfer Duke has signed be a major factor for us next year? Two guys in the fold here for the Blue Devils. Mason Gillis, Malik Brown. I think both could be a very reasonable option or case to be made here. How would you respond to this question, Jordan?
Yeah, and even to add that to that hypothetical, JJ, Sion James from Tulane's got 3 crystal ball selections right now for Duke. So maybe more good news is coming on the way for Duke, so we can throw him in the mix just for this hypothetical. I would still say Malik Brown. And look, I know we just talked about Mark Mitchell. I know what he brings in on a nightly basis offensively, but Malik Brown is a guy that is just a step above Mark Mitchell in terms of development, motor, active hands defensively. Like Shire had one agenda in the portal this year, and it's to get better and tougher defensively. And it started with Malik Brown, and he led the ACC in steals. And JJ, he's like 6'8", 220, and he had 16 games this past year where he had 8 or more rebounds. 16 games at 6'8", 220, and in a game against Louisville, he had in a 2-point win. He had 11 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 6 blocks, and 5 steals. Like, the guy just plays basketball from
excellent numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. Every type of stat you can have, he has it. Hell, he even fouled out that game, JJ. He did everything statistically in that game against Louisville. But I'm very excited to watch Malik Brown in a Duke uniform.
I think that's a good choice there with what Brown's going to be able to do. He's going to be a big factor for the Blue Devils, teaching those younger guys what to do on the defensive end of the floor. And just, again, I think when you're young, you kind of soak in the work ethic that players around you might have. And Malik Brown is somebody that's been in the college game for a couple of years and someone that these players could certainly learn a lot from and that sort of thing. All right, next question that comes in. What are some of the names that you're hearing Duke has been linked to? It's been relatively quiet since they earned that commitment from Mason Gillis, which is perfectly fair. You mentioned a name right there, and Sion James. You put a video up on him. Talk a little bit about this type of recruit for the Blue Devils, Jordan.
Yeah, Sion James is a 6'6", 220. I think he is also 6'6", 220 off the top of my head. Combo guard, can run the point at 6'6". He is built like a brick house. The dude is massive, and he also is just a guy that's a slasher. He can get to the rim. He can dunk on you. He loves a little mid-game fadeaway jumper. He can shoot okay from three. He's a really catch-and-shoot type of three-point shooter. He's not going to shoot off the dribble for a pull-up three. It's not really in his arsenal. But him catching and shooting and what he can do in the pick-and-roll game that Duke is so good at this past season, the two-man game, Shire loves to run it. He's a great ball handler out of that. And he also can guard 1 through 5, JJ. Like, he is a guy that can bring it and is a dog defensively for Tulane and hopefully Duke.
I think it'd be a great fit for the Blue Devils. We saw at the end of last week, Ivy Curry from UTSA was a name that John Rothstein had linked to the Blue Devils, although he's got 3 schools in the mix, and it doesn't look like Duke is one of them right now. Chaz Lanier from North Florida had been a name kind of linked to the Blue Devils. We saw Lamont Butler from San Diego State, Kobe Brea, of course, before he commits to Kentucky. So some names definitely in the radar for the Duke basketball team, but maybe Sion James, the most promising of them, again, transferring over from Tulane. Still waiting to see whether or not he will commit to the Blue Devils, and go watch that breakdown of his game over on Jordan's YouTube channel. All right, next question. Will Duke in the future put more energy into the portal, or do you believe they'll always prioritize having the best high school recruiting class?
I think he'll put more energy in the portal, but it's really a little bit of both. Like, I think Duke's still going to attack high school. I think they're going to be picky.
Yeah, I was going to say, Shire's already kind of spoke to this in the last few months and basically said, why choose? Why do both? Because Duke is absolutely still going to go over those top talents in high school basketball, but then you want to get the experience that you can in the portal. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, you're good. And you're right. And look, Duke kind of fell into this big class. They weren't trying to have this massive class come in. It just happens. Like it happens. And it's a good thing for most schools. And if this was 10 years ago and you landed this big of a class, you're like, great. But now with the portal era and all this weird stuff that's happening with NIL, like, it's crazy. But I think a little bit of both. Like, yearly you want 3 to 4 recruits, 3 to 4 transfers, and hopefully retain 3 to 4 guys on the roster every year. And then some years be more recruits, some years be more transfers. It just, with this era of NIL and everybody leaving schools, I've seen multiple kids, JJ, commit to a school out of the portal and then decommit from that school and go to another school in the portal. And I'm like, what is happening? They've already went to 2 schools in 3 weeks. So it's a weird era, but yeah, just a little bit of both.
A few more questions that we're going to tackle here on this Mailbag Monday episode. We've talked a little bit about players that have transferred away from the Blue Devils. We'll talk about fits for those and guys coming back within the Duke basketball team after we take one final timeout here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Locked On Blue Devils here today, brought to you by our friends over at Monopoly Go. Got to pause here to tell you more about this epic game that I've been playing a whole lot of. In Monopoly Go, you could team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes that you unlock. And there's so much to get, including unique stickers you could trade with a friend to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot, And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything. Go ahead and discover it all in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now for free on Google Play or on the App Store. Game on. Monopoly Go is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Last few moments here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. JJ Jackson alongside my pal Jordan Mann. He's got a podcast called The Big J and Little J Show. He's got a YouTube channel at jman_. What all do you do, man? Sell yourself for the people out there. Promote your work, brother.
Yeah, I do film breakdowns on my YouTube channel, jman_. Also, the podcast is on there as well. On the YouTube podcast can be found on Apple and Spotify. Just talk about Duke basketball and Duke football here in the fall. But hopefully, fingers crossed, JJ, Duke does get good recruiting news this week, and we will officially have a new episode out this week. Waiting for that announcement, knock on wood. But yeah, just always doing something. My hands in one jar at a time, man. One jar at a time.
The man-to-man podcast is off and running. I mean, people are watching these. I'm watching the Sion James breakdown, and in the YouTube comments, people are asking for other breakdown videos left and right for Jordan. So he's doing great things there. Go check out the work with what he's got going on there. All right. Some more mailbag questions to wrap up our show here today. Who will make a bigger leap in the offseason, Caleb Foster or Tyrese Proctor? This is a question where we don't have many players to choose from because they're the only two guys that came back. But who makes the bigger leap? Do you think it's Proctor or Foster?
I think I will go with Tyrese Proctor.
I would go the same way.
I think Caleb will be good and make a jump from freshman to sophomore year. But Proctor knows he'll have the keys to the offense, and he knows the pressure that comes with that. And he's going to be year 3 at Duke. He's seen it with Roach the last 2 years. He knows that pressure and the responsibility. With that being said, I think he's going to be mentally prepared to take that leap. And so I'm excited for year 3 Proctor. Like, he's shown flashes of how good he can really be. Like I said, once a game, the dude would break down his defender and hit a tough pull up. And if he can just have that confidence every possession offensively rather than just one possession every 10 possessions in the game, that would be fantastic. And I really think that he can take his game to another level for Duke.
Let's make it happen. Excited to see what Proctor can do going into his junior year. I think there's even going to be a leap for Caleb Foster coming back from injury, but I think when you consider that, it makes it even more easier to choose Proctor to make that bigger leap because let's be real, injuries are tough for anybody to have to kind of battle with and make those jumps. It might take a little bit of time for Foster to feel like himself again with a brand new team, a brand new roster. But excited to see both those guys. Going into next season, they're going to be so critical as the only 2 experienced Blue Devils coming back. Likely could be your 2 captains for the squad going into next season. I think that's something that we could see Coach Shire do. All right, here's our next question. Which Duke player that has transferred do you believe ended up in the best spot? So again, 7 guys left. 4 of them have made decisions. We've got Jeremy Roach headed to Baylor, Mark Mitchell to Mizzou, Sean Stewart to Ohio State. And then we got an ACC transfer. TJ Power goes from Duke to Virginia. UVA recruited him very heavily out of high school. And if folks remember, it was kind of a 2-horse race between the 2 schools coming out. He chose Duke. Now he's choosing UVA. So of those 4 players, who do you think ended up in the best spot?
Well, to go off that Power thing real quick, that's why I have a joke with some of my college coaches. I'm like, I think you want to finish second in recruiting now, because then you get a guy that has a year of college in him, and he's going to be more prepared for year 2.
And you already know he likes you a little bit because you were in there all the way to the finish. Yeah,
exactly. I would, again, I'm going to not count Roach in this like earlier. And also, I'm not counting because Baylor is a wagon now with Roach and Norchad Amir coming from Miami to Baylor. Right. That's just a monster team. So, again, I'm going to go Sean Stewart just because Ohio State's done a really good job in the portal. They lost 3 guys, I think, but they brought 3 guys in the portal, including Sean Stewart, maybe even 4. And Gary Parrish now has Ohio State in this early top 25 at number 14 because they just landed Sean Stewart. And the minutes will be there for him. And so, I mean, that was obviously why he transferred and he wanted a bigger role. And so now he's going to a school, not only will he have a bigger role, but now they're getting the hype, the preseason hype, like, hey, this is a top 25 team. And so I'm rooting for Sean Stewart because I want him to do well. So I have him number one. But with TJ Power going to Virginia, JJ, I will say I like that fit. Like the one thing about TJ Power, two things. One good thing, he can shoot the lights out, like I said. Number two, he doesn't play great defense, so I didn't play much at Duke. So he's going to arguably the best defensive coach in college basketball who's going to run sets for him offensively. He'd be a catch and shoot big. So I don't think he's going to be overnight productive at UVA next year, but I think he's going to have a really good foundation for the rest of his career to be, when he's a senior at Virginia, he's going to be a really good player.
Without a doubt. I hate, again, to see all of these players leave the Brotherhood, but that's the reality we kind of live in these days. I think we're going to continue to see this more and more, and so they've ended up in these positions. Mark Mitchell in Mizzou, I'll give him a little bit of love here as well because he was the one guy we didn't necessarily highlight there. I think it is a good spot for him as well. Missouri coming off a just horrific season in the SEC, not good play there, but I don't think you're going to have as much pressure playing at a school like Missouri. You're closer to Mark Mitchell's home state of Kansas. I think he could be a little bit more comfortable there, and you get to be more of the guy. And I think that could benefit what Mark Mitchell is going to do, making that move over to the SEC. We saw last time Duke had a couple of transfers. We saw that SEC movement, Jordan, when we saw Jamin Brakefield go to Ole Miss and Henry Coleman go over to Texas A&M. So then you got Mark Mitchell heading to Missouri now.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I totally forgot about Mark Mitchell there when I was going on that rampage. But yeah, like Missouri, he's going from that's a weird. I thought it was a weird move. I thought he was going to go to Kansas State the whole way, but obviously it shows NIL too. You have big bags. Kids might go to the big bags, but a team that did not win a conference game in the SEC, you go from a blue blood to the worst team in the
terrible.
SEC. It's crazy to me. Like I understand the money aspect or whatever, but at the end of the day, like you want to go to a program where you're going to play in front of fans. Like that's a whole part of the experience, JJ. Playing in college is like playing in front of fans. So I thought Kansas State might have been more of the suit, but obviously I don't know what goes on behind the scenes. But yes, that's going to be interesting. Him and Roach going against each other. And well, no, Missouri's in the SEC. I keep thinking, look at me. I look old.
The
right
old
there.
days. Yeah, you're a few years.
Big 12. Jesus. One of those days.
But which Duke player has transferred, do you believe, ended up in the best spot? So we kind of made a case for all of those transfers there. And officially, I'm going to circle back to the Ohio State Buckeyes with you because, I think Sean Stewart is going to make some noise there. I think that's a really good fit for him. Ohio State got Michi Johnson in the transfer portal as well. And here's the play there. Played at South Carolina this past season, averaged 15 points a game, started his career at Ohio State. See, that's where we're at in the transfer portal these days, Jordan. Guys are leaving, and then a year later, they're transferring back to where they just left. And Michi Johnson, one heck of a player, and now he's headed back to the Buckeyes.
Yeah, and that just totally throws out my narrative that you want to finish second place because clearly Ohio State finished first, and then he had FOMO and then went back. And so I don't know what's going on, dude. These kids are blowing like just
it's crazy
to me now, but it's I can't understand it. I can't wrap my head around it. But for fans, you love it because you love the chaos. But as a coach, you can't control the chaos, so it's making them go bald at a very early age.
All right, it's a Mailbag Monday. Send your questions via X at @LO_Blue Devils or email lockdownbluedevils@gmail.com. And one of our usual suspects, Devil in the Blue Dress, sent in our final question of the day here today. And that question is this: which non-conference game on the schedule are you looking forward to most for this Duke basketball season? So, Jordan, let's think about this. We've got the game at Arizona, a true road game for the Blue Devils. Champions Classic matchup with Kentucky. It is really close to being signed, sealed, and delivered. The neutral site matchup in Las Vegas against Kansas. Or, you've got the big question. There's going to be an ACC-SEC challenge. Not sure officially who the opponent's going to be. Of those early looks there, which of those games excites you most?
I got to go Kansas because Kansas is going to be loaded.
Yeah.
And as much as I don't give –
we'll differ here, so that's good. We'll differ here.
As much as I don't give a lot of stock into early season matchups because the teams are figuring each other out, that would be – I'd be on the edge of my seat of just pure talent on that floor from both teams, and it would be an exciting game to watch. Kentucky was also something I thought about just because the new look Kentucky. I'm curious to see how Mark Pope does there. I like him, and I like what he's done. But I would say if we can land that Kansas one, that would be a great game for me to watch.
And Jordan, I'm going to go Arizona because I love I've got these mental images of Duke basketball playing in certain arenas and the logo on certain floors and Duke players there. That's not existed with Arizona basketball. We get a home and home. That's going to be a brand new experience, a big program. Saw them come into Cameron last year. Again, transfer portal has taken several players from that team off of the Wildcats going into the season, but I just think that's going to be a really cool experience. All the games are great, but if I had to choose one, I would pick playing at Arizona.
No, I do not blame you. I can see that too. And Duke has to get back. I mean, obviously now when I say Duke, it's Shire and Proctor and Foster losing to Arizona because
and the rest of the assistant coaches. Yeah.
Yeah, because they were waving to the crazies as they were leaving and left a sour taste in their mouth. But, again, 15 years ago, the whole team's like, we want Arizona. We have a get back. But now you have two players and transfers and freshmen. But it's fine. But that is a good answer. And I know they're looking for a neutral site for the Kansas game, but I would love for that to be a home-and-home series because it's the two best home environments in college basketball. Make that happen. Stop going neutral sites. Like, have it same thing for me with college football. Like, when you have big games, don't go neutral. Go home and home. It's fantastic.
It's great to see. It's great to see. We're excited for the upcoming season. All right, there's a Mailbag Monday episode here today on Locked On Blue Devils. Jordan, you're the best as always. Thank you for stopping by, man.
Hey, I appreciate you as always, JJ.
All right, that's Jordan Mann joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils, and that's going to do it for our program here today. Thank you so much for your support. As always, we'll be back at it again coming up tomorrow. Again, follow us on X at @LO_Blue Devils. I'm there as well at _JJ_Jackson_. That'll do it for today's show. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.